There is a subtle trap that many fall into on the journey of awakening: the obsession with being positive. The idea that if you simply think happy thoughts, if you stay optimistic no matter what, life will finally reward you. But this is not creation, this is performance. And what is performed on the surface can never reach the depth where reality is formed. True manifestation does not come from pretending, it comes from awareness. You do not create by forcing yourself to smile when your heart is breaking. You create by allowing yourself to feel and then transforming the feeling from within. The mind that insists, "I must be positive," is often hiding fear, resistance, and disbelief beneath the surface. And those hidden vibrations, those quiet inner confessions, are what shape your world. You cannot deceive consciousness. It knows what you really believe. It hears the whispers that follow every affirmation. When you say, "I am wealthy," but feel lack, consciousness responds not to the words, but to the feeling of lack itself. When you say, "I am loved," but still fear abandonment, the echo of that fear writes the script of your reality. Creation is not about replacing every negative thought with a positive one. It is about entering the state where what you desire is already true. The feeling of the wish fulfilled is not a positive thought. It is a knowing. It does not fight against what is. It simply is. The moment you assume it as your truth, you stop struggling to maintain positivity, and you begin to rest in the certainty of fulfillment. Being positive is exhausting when it comes from the surface. It becomes a desperate attempt to control emotions instead of understanding them. But being aware, deeply aware, sets you free. When you see fear, you no longer run from it. You see it as a messenger revealing where your faith has not yet reached. When anger rises, you do not suppress it. You recognize it as energy misdirected by old memories, waiting to be transmuted into power. You do not need to chant happiness into existence. You need to embody truth. Truth does not require you to be positive. It requires you to be real. When you are real, every emotion becomes a doorway back to your creative power. You begin to ask, "What must I believe for this to be appearing?" And in that moment of inquiry, you awaken from the dream of victimhood. The world is a mirror, not a judge. It reflects not your forced positivity, but your assumed reality. So if you want to change the reflection, you must stop decorating the surface and begin altering the depth. Stop trying to be positive and instead be present. Stop pretending you are happy and instead be conscious of what you are imagining and feeling. The power that shapes worlds is not fragile. It does not need you to tiptoe around negative thoughts in fear that they might manifest. It needs only your alignment, your willingness to feel the end as real. When you rest in that inner knowing, the outer world must obey. So, do not fight against what you feel. Do not reject the moments that seem dark or uncertain. They are not failures of your mind. They are invitations to return to yourself. You are not here to perform positivity. You are here to remember that creation begins and ends in the unseen, the silent assumption that what you desire already is. The law is simply you become what you are conscious of being. Not what you force yourself to think, not what you repeat endlessly, but what you accept as your state. The one who accepts their desired reality does not need to be positive because they already are. They rest, they know, they feel it done. And that is the secret, the difference between thinking and being. Positive thinking belongs to effort. Assumed being belongs to mastery. When you stop trying to be positive, you make space for truth to flow through you. When you stop pretending, you begin creating. To live by surface positivity is to live in a constant state of defense, defending yourself from your own emotions, from your own shadows, from your own truth. It is to cover wounds with glitter and call it healing. But reality cannot be fooled. The deeper currents of your consciousness move beyond the reach of your rehearsed affirmations. They listen not to the words you speak, but to the tones of your inner feeling, to the vibration of your being. You see, positive thinking is not bad in itself. It can serve as a doorway, a gentle nudge that reminds you life can be seen through a brighter lens. But when it becomes a shield to hide your disbelief, it becomes the very wall that separates you from your creation. When you say, "I am rich," and yet in secret feel anxiety every time you look at your bank balance, it is not the affirmation that creates, It is the feeling behind it. You cannot ascend into a higher state while clinging to the lower one in fear. Stop trying to fix the outer world with words. You must change the cause, not the effect. The outer world is but a mirror. Your inner state is the sculptor. The universe bends to the rhythm of your consciousness. When you truly know something within, it must appear without. But if you are forcing yourself to think positive while secretly fearing the opposite, you are planting two seeds in one soil. Confusion is the only thing that can grow there. Let yourself feel what arises. Awareness transforms everything it touches. When sadness comes, do not push it away. Ask yourself, what am I believing right now that makes this feeling true for me? In that simple question, you reclaim your power. You no longer react, you observe. And in observation, the illusion loses its hold. The greatest secret is not to resist the negative, but to redeem it. Every emotion carries energy. Every fear, every doubt, every sorrow holds within it the same creative force that can be redirected. When you stop labeling emotions as good or bad, you begin to see them as raw material, divine energy waiting to be shaped by consciousness. When you say to yourself, I must be positive, you are unconsciously declaring, I am not yet what I desire to be. You strengthen the very separation you wish to dissolve. Instead, step into the feeling that your desire is already fulfilled. This is not pretending. This is choosing your reality. There is a vast difference between pretending to be happy and feeling from happiness. Pretending says, I hope this works. Feeling from says, it already has. Creation does not respond to effort, it responds to acceptance. You accept a state when you stop trying to get there and begin to live as though you already are there. That is the secret many miss while chasing positive thoughts. They chase, they affirm, they visualize, but they never rest. And until you rest in the knowing of the end, you remain in motion, and motion implies not yet. Every desire you hold already exists in the unseen. You are not trying to attract it, you are awakening to it. But awakening requires stillness. When you are busy fighting negativity, you are still at war within yourself. And where there is war, there can be no creation. Stop thinking of manifestation as a battle to win. Think of it as a dance, a gentle alignment between your inner self and the unseen world that mirrors it. The dancer does not try to control the rhythm, they move with it. So too must you move with the rhythm of your inner conviction. There will be moments when doubt arises, when fear whispers, when old patterns return. Do not resist them. They are not signs of failure. They are signs that you are expanding beyond your old state. When an old emotion comes, it means your consciousness is inviting you to see what was once hidden. Smile at it, welcome it, and gently shift your attention back to the state you have chosen. You do not need to destroy negativity. You only need to stop identifying with it. It cannot exist without your agreement. The moment you withdraw attention, it dissolves like mist in the morning sun. Positive thinking tries to overpower it. Awareness transcends it. There is a vast difference between trying to be positive and being conscious of your state. One is effort, the other is mastery. When you are conscious, you can watch thoughts and feelings without being enslaved by them. You recognize them as temporary ripples on the surface of your infinite being. Then you choose, quietly, simply, to dwell in the feeling of the fulfilled desire. That feeling, sustained without struggle, becomes the mold through which your world reshapes itself. Your world is not punishing you. It is teaching you what you are assuming to be true. When you see lack, it is your assumption of lack being reflected. When you see delay, it is your belief in delay made visible. But when you assume the end, when you inwardly live from the place where your desire is complete, the world bends itself to match your knowing. It cannot do otherwise, for it is consciousness itself playing both roles, the dreamer and the dream. Many are afraid to acknowledge their negative feelings because they think they will manifest them. But it is not the fleeting emotion that creates, it is the dwelling state. The passing clouds of thought and feeling cannot change the sky. What matters is what you continue to identify with. So if sadness comes, allow it, observe it, and let it pass. But return again and again to the quiet certainty that all is unfolding perfectly. This is why trying to stay positive at all times becomes an obstacle. It demands resistance to what is natural. It demands constant self-surveillance. It teaches you to fear your own thoughts. But creation is not fear, it is freedom. The Creator is not afraid of the shadow, because they know it is only light turned inward. You are not a child learning to please the universe. You are the universe expressing through individuality. Your job is not to impress the unseen power with your optimism. It is to recognize that the unseen power is you. Every assumption you hold, every feeling you nurture, every vision you accept as real, these are not prayers to an external deity. They are commands given to your own infinite self. When you truly understand this, you stop the struggle. You no longer need to chant, "Everything will be okay." You simply know, it already is. You stop pretending to be confident and start walking as one who cannot fail. You stop forcing gratitude and begin living in the effortless appreciation that naturally arises from knowing that all things are already yours. Look closely at your inner dialogue. Do you speak to yourself as one who is waiting or as one who has already received? The one who waits says, "It will happen soon." The one who has received says, "It is done." Positive thinking tries to encourage the one who waits. Conscious creation awakens the one who has already arrived. To shift states, you do not need to suppress thoughts or chant mantras endlessly. You need only to imagine, vividly and feelingly, the scene that would imply your wish fulfilled. Enter it in consciousness. Feel it natural, real, alive. Rest in that feeling until it becomes your normal vibration. Then release it. Life will rearrange itself in ways your reasoning mind could never predict. The law of creation is not mechanical. It is mystical. It moves through the silent language of feeling. It is not the feeling you display to others. It is the quiet conviction that lives beneath your skin, the knowing you carry when no one is watching. That is the signal sent to the universe, the seed planted in the soil of consciousness. When you rely on constant positivity, you remain on the surface, forever trimming the branches but never tending the roots. But when you go within, when you enter the end, you transform the roots, and the whole tree must bear new fruit. Remember, emotions are not your enemies. They are maps pointing to your assumptions. Every fear says, "Look here." You still believe in separation. Every worry whispers, "You still think you are small." Every doubt invites you, "Choose again." You are not here to silence these voices with positivity. You are here to listen, to understand, and then to rise into the higher truth. And what is that truth? That you are already what you seek. You are not becoming, you are revealing. The states you call success, love, peace, wealth are not things to get, they are aspects of your own being waiting to be assumed. To assume is to claim ownership, to say within, "This is who I am now." It does not require evidence, it creates it. Evidence follows assumption as shadow follows light. The mind that insists on being positive before it believes is still bound by the outer world. The awakened one believes before seeing, because they know that seeing is simply belief made visible. When you look at your life, remember it is the reflection of yesterday's assumptions. If you wish to change tomorrow, do not struggle against today. Simply withdraw your attention from what no longer serves you and give life to what does. You do not fight darkness, you turn on the light. You do not chase positivity, you awaken to truth. To live from the end is not to deny reality, it is to redefine it. You do not say everything is fine when your heart aches. You go within and you feel the version of yourself for whom everything truly is fine. You do not ignore pain, you reinterpret it as a signal that a higher version of you is calling. This is the sacred paradox. You do not need to be positive to manifest, you need to be aligned. You need to rest in the felt reality of your fulfilled desire and allow the old feelings, old memories, and old states to dissolve naturally. When you master this, peace replaces struggle. You no longer fear thoughts, for you know thoughts are powerless without your consent. You no longer chase happiness, for happiness arises from the state you dwell in, and you no longer beg for blessings, for you recognize that you are the source through which blessings flow. Imagine what happens when you stop trying to be positive and start being present. When you stop striving and begin allowing. When you stop performing faith and start living it. In that quiet surrender, Manifestation becomes effortless. It is no longer something you do, it is something that happens through you. The outer world will mirror your new state, not immediately perhaps, but inevitably. The bridge of incidents will unfold, leading you from where you are to where you have already arrived within. The old world may resist for a while, but it cannot survive the new assumption. Reality must conform to the inner pattern. Do not measure progress by appearances. Appearances belong to the past. Measure by your inner stability, by how naturally you dwell in the end, how easily you return to the feeling of fulfillment when the old world tempts you to react. That is the true test of mastery. Stop being positive. Start being conscious. For the conscious one does not need to force light. They are the light. They see through illusion and rest in the truth that everything arises from within. The moment you know this, the game changes. You no longer fight, you create. You no longer chase, you attract by being. That is the transformation the world calls magic. But it is not magic, it is law. The law that says, as within, so without, not as you try to think, but as you feel yourself to be. And when you finally see that, you will understand that every struggle to be positive was never needed. You only ever needed to remember who you are, the dreamer, the source, the one imagining reality into form. When you stop chasing positivity, you finally make room for truth to take root. Truth is not the same as optimism. Truth is clarity, clear seeing without distortion. It does not deny pain or pretend everything is fine. It looks directly into what is and recognizes the power hidden within it. The moment you can look at what you fear and not turn away, the illusion dissolves, and you realize it was never stronger than you. Most people who cling to positivity do so out of fear. They fear that if they admit they are sad, broke, lonely, or frustrated, they will stay there forever. They fear that acknowledging darkness will give it power. But acknowledgement is not surrender. Acknowledgement is awareness. And awareness is creation's first movement. What is brought into light cannot remain as it was. It must change. Your emotions are not curses to escape. They are signals from the deeper self. They show you exactly what you are assuming about yourself and life. When you feel anxiety, it means you are assuming uncertainty. When you feel joy, you are assuming harmony. Instead of covering one with fake positivity, listen to it. Let it teach you what state you are living from. Because it is not your thoughts that shape your life. It is your state. Thoughts come and go, states remain. You can think 1,000 happy thoughts while remaining in a state of lack, and nothing will shift. Or you can sit silently, barely thinking at all, but feel yourself as already fulfilled, and reality will begin to bend. Stop trying to control thoughts. They are ripples on the ocean. Control the ocean, and the ripples take care of themselves. The ocean is your feeling, your inner knowing of who you are. That is where the true work lies. There will come moments when the old self tries to pull you back. When you hear the inner voice whisper, be careful. What if it doesn't work? Do not fight it. Smile, for it is proof you are leaving behind an old identity. Every fear that rises is the echo of an old assumption dying. The old you must protest before it disappears. Do not feed it, simply observe it and return to your chosen state. Creation is effortless when you stop interfering. Effort always comes from doubt. When you know, you no longer push, you allow. Think of a seed buried in the soil. It does not repeat, I must grow, I must be positive. It simply is the tree in potential. It rests in its nature. And because it knows what it is, the conditions of the earth and sky bend to fulfill its purpose. You too are a seed of infinite power. Stop trying to force the bloom. Rest in your identity as the one who already has. Every desire is a divine invitation to remember more of yourself. It is not something separate you must earn. It is a reflection of who you are meant to express now. When you desire abundance, it is because abundance is already part of your being, calling for recognition. When you desire love, it is love within you asking to be known. You are not calling something to you. You are calling something from you. That is why positive thinking fails. It assumes separation. It says, I am here, and my good is out there. It repeats words to bridge the gap. But in truth, there is no gap. The desire and its fulfillment are one. The moment you feel the reality of the end, the bridge is built. The outer must follow the inner. The outer world has no life of its own. It only reflects what you are conscious of being. To change the mirror, you change the face before it. This is not theory, it is law. You cannot deceive it, nor can you break it. You can only misunderstand it. Every circumstance, no matter how stubborn it seems, is clay waiting for the hands of consciousness to reshape it. When you understand this, negativity loses its power. You can walk through chaos and remain unmoved, not because you are pretending to be calm, but because you know that appearances are temporary projections of past assumptions. You begin to live in a state of inner quiet, not forced quiet, the quiet that comes from knowing. Imagine how different your life would feel if you no longer feared your emotions. If you could feel anger without guilt, sadness without panic, confusion without shame. These feelings would come and go, leaving no scars, because you would no longer claim them as yours. You would see them as weather passing through the sky of your consciousness. You would no longer resist them, and in not resisting, you would transcend them. The insistence on staying positive is a misunderstanding of how creation works. You are not rewarded for smiling through pain, you are rewarded for transforming pain through understanding. Real mastery is not denial, it is transmutation. When fear arises, do not drown in it or cover it with affirmations. Instead, feel it fully, then ask, what is the opposite state of this feeling? Step into that state in imagination. Let it feel real. And as you do, fear loses its footing. Creation begins and ends in imagination. Imagination is not daydreaming, it is the creative act of assuming and feeling. You cannot fake a feeling, it must be accepted. And the way you accept it is by surrendering the struggle to get it. You stop trying to believe, you simply rest in the assumption that it is so. You have been told to think positively, but no one told you that you can feel from the end. That is the missing key. You can close your eyes and live, even for a moment, in the world where your wish is fulfilled. You can feel the relief, the gratitude, the stillness that follows realization. When that feeling becomes natural, your outer world cannot resist reflecting it. There is no punishment for negative thoughts, only consequences for sustained states. Consciousness is not a tyrant waiting to strike you for a bad mood. It is a mirror. If you find yourself feeling low, do not panic. Simply know it is a reflection of a temporary belief. Change the belief, and the feeling will follow. Change the feeling, and the world will rearrange. The deeper you go into this understanding, the free you become. You stop seeking validation from the outer world, because you know the outer cannot give what the inner has not accepted. You stop chasing signs and synchronicities, because you realize they are simply confirmations of what you already assumed. You no longer worship positivity as a savior, because you have met the true savior within, awareness itself. Be still and know that what you are conscious of being, you become. That is the eternal command. It requires no effort, no struggle, no constant policing of thought. Only a quiet willingness to feel the end as real, to see yourself not as the seeker, but as the one who has found. If you are tired of forcing positivity, let that exhaustion lead you inward. The need to be positive all the time is born of fear. The fear that the universe is against you, that you must earn your good. But what if the universe is not separate from you? What if it is your own consciousness projected outward? Would you still need to beg it for kindness? Or would you simply decide, in quiet confidence, what you are now ready to experience? The truth is, you are always manifesting. Even in your doubt, you manifest evidence of doubt. Even in your fear, you manifest things to fear. The process never stops, only your awareness of it changes. So do not struggle to begin manifesting, you are already doing it. The question is not whether you can create, it is whether you will do it consciously. When you understand this, you no longer waste energy on trying to be positive. Instead, you focus on becoming aware of your current state and shifting it when needed. You use your imagination deliberately, not reactively. You see a problem and ask, what would I feel if this were already solved? Then you live from that feeling. It is not about ignoring reality, it is about redefining it. When you live from the end, you are not lying to yourself. You are acknowledging a deeper truth that exists beyond time. The physical world catches up to what the spiritual world has already declared. That is why miracles often seem to happen suddenly. It is not that they were created at that moment, it is that you finally assumed the state that allowed them to appear. You stopped fighting against what is and began to rest in what already is true within you. There is a peace that comes when you stop forcing happiness. It is quiet, steady, and unshakable. It does not depend on circumstances or affirmations. It is the peace of one who knows the world is a mirror of their inner being. And when you dwell in that peace, creation flows effortlessly. Do not misunderstand, this is not passivity, it is power in stillness. The lion does not roar all day to prove its strength, it rests knowing its power is unquestioned. Likewise, the awakened creator does not shout affirmations or cling to positivity, they rest in conviction. When you look at others, you begin to see the same principle at work. Every person you meet is expressing their own state of consciousness. You no longer judge, for you understand they are also learning to remember who they are. Compassion replaces frustration. Love replaces fear. Love, in truth, is the highest state of awareness. It sees no lack, no separation, no distance between desire and fulfillment. To dwell in love is to dwell in the perfect assumption that all is complete. And from that state, everything unfolds with grace. So, if you must choose between being positive and being aware, choose awareness. Awareness is alive, honest, and powerful. It allows both light and shadow to serve your awakening. It frees you from the exhausting performance of pretending to be okay. You were never meant to fake light. You were meant to be it. You were never meant to chase good feelings. You were meant to generate them from within. The truth of who you are does not require constant maintenance. It simply requires recognition. As you live this way, something miraculous happens. The need to manifest fades because life itself becomes your reflection. You stop desiring endlessly because every desire you do have seems to fulfill itself naturally. You begin to understand that manifestation was never about creating things, it was about realizing your state of being. And in that realization, the struggle ends. You stop chasing positivity because there is nothing left to chase. You stop trying to become because you already are. The outer world loses its power to define you. And in that freedom, everything you once sought begins to flow to you, not because you forced it, but because you finally remembered that it was yours all along. There is a deep calm that comes when you finally stop trying to be positive. It is like stepping out of a performance you didn't even realize you were part of. You have been trained to wear the mask of happiness, to smile when you don't feel like smiling, to affirm words that your heart does not yet believe. You've been told that if you think negative thoughts, you will attract negative things. So you became your own warden, policing your every emotion, terrified that one moment of doubt would undo everything you've been working for. But what you didn't realize is that this fear, the fear of not being positive enough, is the real block to manifestation. The moment you fear your emotions, you give them power. The moment you try to control your inner world through force, you confess to yourself that you are powerless. Yet, you were never powerless. You were simply misled into believing that creation requires pretending, when in truth, it only requires knowing. Knowing is quiet. Knowing doesn't panic when appearances contradict it. Knowing doesn't rush to replace a negative thought with a positive one. Knowing rests in the unseen and trusts that the unseen governs the seen. Knowing understands that consciousness is the root and everything else is the flower. To live from knowing is to live from the end. To stand in the middle of lack and feel abundance as real. To be surrounded by conflict and still feel peace within. It is not denial, it is dominion. You are not pretending circumstances don't exist. You are declaring that they have no authority over your state of being. When you stop forcing positivity, you begin to move from truth. You stop covering pain with affirmations and start transforming it with awareness. You begin to realize that awareness itself is the light that dissolves the darkness. The moment you observe your pain without judgment, it begins to lose its grip. It cannot survive your acceptance. The one who clings to positivity is often still in fear of themselves. They are afraid of their shadow, afraid of their past, afraid of their feelings. But nothing inside you is your enemy. Every part of you, every fear, doubt, and wound was born of misunderstanding. Each is a messenger carrying a lesson. See me. heal me, integrate me. Do not fight your emotions. They are not obstacles to manifestation, they are doorways. When you walk through them with awareness, they lead you straight to the truth. Behind every fear is a forgotten belief in separation. Behind every moment of sadness is a longing to return to wholeness. You are not broken. You are remembering yourself piece by piece. The true creative act begins when you stop judging yourself, when you stop labeling certain thoughts as bad and certain feelings as dangerous. The universe doesn't judge, it responds. And it responds not to your forced positivity, but to your assumed identity. If you feel unworthy, the world echoes that. If you feel chosen, the world bends in your favor. The outer simply reveals what the inner assumes to be true. You have been told that thoughts become things. But it is not any thought. It is the feeling of reality behind the thought that becomes things. You could repeat, "I am wealthy," 10,000 times and still experience lack if beneath those words you feel the vibration of, "I don't have enough." You could whisper once, "I am secure," with conviction, and life would rearrange itself to prove it true. So stop counting positive thoughts. Start cultivating deep feeling. Start living from the inner certainty that what you desire is already done. This is not about saying nice things to yourself. It is about entering the inner atmosphere of your wish fulfilled. When you assume a state, you are not forcing yourself to believe. It is a quiet acceptance. It feels natural, not dramatic. You don't say, "I hope this happens." You feel, "It has already happened." And that feeling becomes your new normal. You carry it into every action, every conversation, every quiet moment. Your environment begins to change because it must. The law of consciousness is absolute. What you are aware of being, you express. If you are aware of being abundant, opportunities, ideas, and support must appear, for consciousness can only externalize itself. The one who lives from the end does not need to fight negativity, because they no longer identify with it. They see it as old momentum fading away. The world is a lagging mirror. What you see today is yesterday's belief. Let it fade without resistance. Your only work is to remain faithful to the inner knowing of the end. You may ask, "But what if I feel negative often? What if fear keeps returning?" Then see fear not as failure but as feedback. Every time fear arises, it shows you the part of yourself that still clings to the old story. And every time you choose to stay in faith anyway, you rewrite that story. You do not need to erase fear. You simply stop giving it authority. The power within you does not need your protection. It needs your recognition. It does not need you to chant over it, to please it with positivity. It needs you to see through illusion. The illusion that says, "I am not enough yet." The illusion that says, "It's not working." These are shadows of old conditioning. Let them speak if they must, but know they hold no truth. True creation happens in stillness. When you stop fighting yourself, when you stop striving to control, when you stop begging reality to change, your inner world becomes clear, and that clarity is creation. It is not the fight that manifests, but the surrender. Most people think surrender means giving up. It does not. Surrender means giving up control of the outer and reclaiming control of the inner. It means saying, "I no longer chase what is already mine. I rest in the knowing that it is finished." That rest is power. It is the still point from which all movement flows. If you have ever tried to be positive when your world was falling apart, you know the exhaustion of it. The tension between what you say and what you feel tears you apart. You can never fake vibration. You can only transform it. So let yourself feel what is real, but feel it with awareness. Don't wallow in it, observe it. The observer is always free. The moment you observe, you create space between yourself and the emotion. That space is where transformation begins. From that space, imagine the opposite feeling, the one that belongs to your desired state. You do not have to force it. You only need to taste it. Even the faintest spark of feeling is enough. It will grow naturally if you nourish it with attention. This is the alchemy of creation. You are not running from darkness. You are using it as raw material to forge light. You are not avoiding negative thoughts. You are understanding them so deeply that they lose their grip on you. Positive thinking says, "Everything is fine." Conscious creation says, "Even if it isn't, I know who I am." Positive thinking says, I hope things get better. Conscious creation says, things already are better, for I have assumed the end. You see, the universe responds to your identity, not your words. If you still identify as the struggler trying to believe, you will manifest struggle. But if you identify as the one who already is, reality will echo that identity. This is why the greatest creators are calm. They do not force, they do not chase, they know. Their power is in their quiet assurance. They can look at apparent failure and remain unmoved, because they understand that the scene before them is temporary, while the truth within them is eternal. When you stop being positive and start being conscious, you begin to notice the still voice within that has always been guiding you. It does not shout. It whispers, you already are. It invites you to stop pretending, to stop striving, and to simply recognize. That voice is your bridge from fear to faith. The more you listen, the less you need to control. The less you control, the more naturally life unfolds. You begin to trust timing, trust unfolding, trust the invisible orchestration that has always been working behind the scenes. You realize you never needed to make things happen. You only needed to let them happen by being aligned. Alignment is not about smiling through pain. It is about standing in truth even when appearances seem to deny it. It is about remembering that you are not your circumstances. You are their source. Circumstances are shadows. You are the light that casts them. Change the light, and the shadow must change form. This is why pretending positivity never works. It tries to paint the shadow instead of adjusting the light. You cannot fix your reflection in the mirror by touching the mirror. You must change the face that stands before it. Begin each day not with forced optimism, but with remembrance. Remember who you are, the awareness through which worlds arise. Remember that creation begins in stillness, not in struggle. Remember that every desire is already fulfilled in the invisible. You are not waiting for it, you are awakening to it. When you live from that remembrance, life becomes fluid. Events no longer seem random. People show up at the right moment. Opportunities appear without effort. Doors open silently. You realize that manifestation was never about controlling matter. It was about aligning consciousness. And yet, even when things appear slow, even when doubts return, you remain at peace. You no longer measure success by what you see, but by how you feel. If you can feel the reality of your wish fulfilled, even for a moment, you have already succeeded. The outer must follow in its appointed hour. This is the freedom that comes when you stop forcing positivity. You are no longer imprisoned by your thoughts. You are no longer anxious about being good enough for the universe to bless you. You are no longer performing happiness. You are living truth. The truth is, everything you have ever desired is already complete within you. There is nothing to chase, nothing to fix, nothing to earn. All you must do is assume the feeling of it, rest in it, and trust the unseen law that never fails. You were never meant to strain under the weight of forced optimism. You were meant to live in the effortless grace of awareness. The more you rest in that grace, the more life unfolds in harmony. And one day you will look back and realize that every struggle, every fear, every false effort to stay positive was simply guiding you to this quiet, unshakable knowing that all along you were the creator, and all along it was already done. So now, stop chasing the illusion of positivity as if it were your savior. Stop forcing smiles to hide your doubts, and stop repeating words that do not carry life within them. You were never meant to live on the surface. You were meant to create from the depths of your being. True power does not come from denying what is, it comes from transforming it. When you finally allow yourself to feel, to see, to acknowledge what lives within you, you take command of it. You stop being the puppet of emotion and become the master of assumption. You begin to live as the creator you have always been, not the follower of fleeting thoughts or emotional tides. You realize that your reality is not changed by pretending everything is fine. It changes the moment you decide that your inner world is already complete. Positivity is fragile. It shatters at the first touch of challenge. But consciousness, true awareness, stands unshaken in any storm. The one who knows that their wish is already fulfilled does not need to fight for good feelings, because the feeling of completion is peace. That peace carries power, And that power carries manifestation. You are not asked to be positive, you are asked to be certain. You are not asked to escape reality, you are asked to create it. Every scene, every emotion, every thought is clay in your hands, and the moment you mold it with inner conviction, it must take form in the outer world. That is the law, it cannot fail. So, let the mask of forced happiness fall away. Let the noise of self-help slogans fade. Return to the quiet center where creation begins, the place within you that simply knows. There, in that silence, you no longer need to try. You no longer need to affirm. You no longer need to chase light, for you are it. When you stop striving to be positive and instead become aware, the illusion breaks. You awaken to the truth that everything you desire is not coming, it is already yours. And when you walk in that knowing, the world will reflect it in perfect order. The message is clear. Stop forcing light and start being it. Stop trying to fix the mirror and start transforming the reflection. You are not here to think your way into joy. You are here to embody it. The moment you do, creation bows to your inner state, and life begins to move in harmony with your knowing. Do not settle for artificial positivity. Choose divine certainty. Feel the wish fulfilled and live from its end. That is where true manifestation begins and never ends.